Greetings, Earthlings! Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. I'm your host, Jamie Delzell, and I want you to join us for a trip down another rabbit hole where we find all kinds of unusual and unexplained phenomena. Remember, the first 30 minutes of the show is absolutely free and available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Head over to Patreon and catch 30 minutes and beyond of extra audio as we dive even further into today's topics, exclusively for our subscribed fans with top secret clearance. Now let's dive right into it.
Hello.
Hey, let's dive right in. Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, as always, with Mr. Ryan Stacy. Hello, he said already.
Hey.
And our very special guest today, we have Miss Lesley Mitchell-Clarke, who is a regression hypnotherapist. She is board certified, a master hypnotherapist, works very much with high strangeness. So has kind of teamed up. We have a lot of Tessa people go and use Lesley's services, and she's able to help give us some information. So really excited to talk to her. She's got a Contact TV. She's been running for 11 seasons now. Author of Intersections. Just all around versatile lady here. So we're really excited to talk to you, Lesley. Welcome to the show.
No wonder I'm tired. Somehow it sounded even worse after. Thank you, guys. It's such a pleasure to be here, Jamie and Ryan, of course, and so wonderful to be on the Tessa podcast and talking about subject matter, which is near and dear. And I know we're going to get into some deep and fascinating stuff, and I can't wait to share with you some of my recent observations from the work I've been doing with all kinds of peeps.
Amazing. Well, we're thrilled to have you, and thank you so much for taking your time. Obviously, you are a busy lady, a lot going on, but let's jump right into it with you. And so you've been into hypnosis for quite a while. I saw that you went to school for you have a little theater arts degree in there as well.
Well, I actually, before I ever became a hypnotherapist, I had a very long career in the entertainment business. I was a child actor and singer, dancer, entertainer. I worked all over the world. I had my own group. I worked extensively in Japan and Asia. And although when I do have as you pointed out, I have a university degree in in fine arts theater. And when I was putting myself through school at university, I began my medical training. I began working in a state mental hospital. And first I was a psychiatric aide, then I became a psychiatric technician. And so I have always had, the medical thing going as well as the creative thing going. And even to this day, I still have done quite a bit of acting work here in Canada and still do. And whenever it's allowable again, whenever the plague settles down, then hopefully I'll be able to sing in a few clubs, but now, it's more just for my own love and fun, because my real focus is on hypnotherapy and working with people, and not just in the esoteric areas, although that's obviously my main line of interest, but I also work in, I guess, things that you would call maybe middle of the road or mundane or whatever, but I help people to quit smoking and lose weight and deal with addictions and insomnia and phobias. And so I see little miracles every day. I really do. I see little miracles every day.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so what got you into the hypnosis side of things? How did you get into that?
Well, I was kind of at, one of these, fork of the road type places in my life. My kids were older, and I was no longer a young leading lady actress wise. And I my husband, God bless him, he bought me a past life regression as a present, not with Dr. Georgina Cannon, who I later did the bulk of my studying with, but with someone else. At any rate, I went and had this past life regression, which was fascinating. But the biggest fascinating part of it is I knew, I said, I can do this. I understand this process. Now, I don't know whether, because of course I do believe in past lives, and hypnosis has been around for roughly 6,000 years and maybe even longer. Do I think that maybe I did this practice at some other time? It sure felt like it. So very soon after that, I found Dr. Georgina Cannon and I did my basic training, and then later on I was able to specialize in the things of particular interest, regression, past life regression, interlife regression. I also do a lot of work in pain management and pediatric hypnosis as well. So, but as a regressionist, that's kind of an area that most hypnotists really don't like to get into. And I think it's because for one thing, it involves kind of a long process. It takes a while to get people into the zone where they're in the alpha or the theta state, and where you can, really work with them. So it takes a certain appreciation of the long form, I guess. And then I once asked my insurance guy, who insures me my practice. I once asked him, why, who is suing hypnotists and hypnotherapists? Where are the lawsuits coming from? And he said, well, there's very few, but the lawsuits are all coming from regression processes. And I have no idea how there could be a viable basis for a lawsuit, for anything of that nature. But that's what my insurance guy told me, and that's why it costs so much to have medical insurance as a hypnotherapist, because there are people out there who are probably not very well trained in hypnosis to begin with, who are apparently doing some kind of damage. But
once you divulge or suggest what they're, I don't want to say suggest, that's the investigator in me, but once you identify the possibility, just like we say, they identify the possibility of the regression past life.
Yeah.
They may just interpret that and then live a whole new life, and then by living a whole new life because of that thought, maybe something happens as a result of that. I think that could be why it's very important people like you have that insurance, in case people run a mile with these positive ideas, or some could be negative too in some cases.
Well, that is where I would say the skill of all of this comes in, because in the first place, we don't let anybody relive trauma. In other words, it used to be thought, 100 years ago, that by, Sigmund Freud and his cronies, that if someone was going to overcome a phobia, that they had to be exposed to it directly over increments. In other words, say someone had arachnophobia, fear of spiders. So the old school mental health team would have a big cage full of gross spiders. So the patient or the person trying to recover from this would stick their hand in at first for 5 seconds, and then build it up and build it up. Well, this is the way they thought they had to do it. But even when I deal with phobias, it's still what we would call progressive desensitization. It's the same kind of theory, but it doesn't happen in reality. And when someone is looking at a potentially traumatic experience, and I'm talking about even just from this current life, not necessarily looking to recover any past life memories, but if I feel that anybody is going through any kind of trauma, I immediately turn them into an observer who is not affected emotionally. They said you're just watching it, and this is just part of the healing. And it was found that that was significant enough. People don't need to relive emotional trauma to release it. It can be represented, and it can be represented in a way. I mean, we've all heard a lot about after we pass over and we have life reviews. That's what, one of the things that seems to be a commonality. Can you imagine if we had to watch our life reviews and relive trauma, and yet we apparently learn from them? So anyway, that's my point of view. I don't let anybody experience trauma, whether it's a past life regression or whether we're recovering some blocked memories or suppressed memories of a possible paranormal encounter of some sort. So that's my thing. And that's one of the misunderstandings, I think, about hypnotherapy in general. I think people have seen a lot of television and film, and, the hypnotist waves his, little thing in front, and they go into a trauma, and then they have a big, dramatic, terrifying, actorly scene.
Yeah. That's all I could picture.
Yeah,
Like, wow.
yeah, it's really not like that. Really not like that.
Good to know. That's good to know. So that's super interesting. So, because my whole thought would be that they'd have to relive that, that trauma to be able to release it. So that's kind of interesting that you can just have them take them away from being in
Yes.
that
Yes.
scenario and just
I
have
wouldn't have thought that would work, because that's not what I was taught in psychology at university. I mean, that is relatively new thinking, and I think that hypnotherapists deal with phobias and these kinds of things better than any kind of talk therapy that exists.
So was that a theory that you had kind of come up with yourself, or did you
No, not at all. Most contemporary hypnotherapists are we call ourselves, like, Ericssonian hypnotherapists, because we all kind of base our work on the writings of Milton Erickson, who was the contemporary. He's ground zero for the contemporary thought on hypnosis. And so all of us who are adhering to a modality and an ethical discipline and working in a certain way are Ericksonian hypnotherapists.
Cool. Okay, so I want to get into the reason how we're all connected here, and the high strangeness and the paranormal stuff that you deal with. I'd have to go out on a limb and assume that there's a reason why you're intrigued by that, and that why that's kind of your calling.
Well, I think, I do discuss this a little bit in my book, but I kind of came in with, if you're Irish, they call it The Shining, or as in Stephen King's book. But I always had the ability to see into other realms. And for instance, I was raised Catholic, and I would be at mass maybe with my grandmother or something, and I would see people praying, and I would say to my grandmother, why do some people have halos around their heads and other people don't? Now, you would think, because of course religious art, there are a lot of halos painted in. Why wouldn't I think as a little kid that that's a real thing that people have seen? And then, there were the imaginary friends that weren't actually imaginary friends, and my experiences as far as seeing things were pretty dramatic until I got through my teenage years, and then it became more of a mental experience. I didn't, I will occasionally still see a discarnate spirit, but usually when I'm not expecting to. In fact, not even that long ago, just a couple of months ago, I was at the Rex Hotel, which is a jazz club in Toronto, and I was just sitting there, and I watched a very tall man with a bald-headed man, very tall, with one of the long aprons that they used to wear at the turn of the last century, and he had garters on his, on his white shirt, and he walked right in front of me and right out the wall on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
I hadn't even had a drink yet, so I was completely sobrietous, and these do things that are visual happen once in a while, but other stuff that happens is more mental. So I was sort of always had a foot in the in high strangeness, if you will, always. And certainly, one of my big desires in becoming a hypnotherapist was to eventually be able to work in metaphysical hypnosis. As I said, that was my whole thrust. That's what I wanted to do. And I have been so blessed. It's so odd, because once I decided that I wanted to do this kind of work and work primarily with experiencers, and I was at the time working in clinic, the Ontario Hypnosis Center in Yorkville. And even then, about once a month, somebody would call in and want to find a therapist who would work with them with this issue. So people just started coming to me, I guess. I don't know if it was a vibrational thing. And then, of course, eventually, I started appearing in a lot of shows and blah, 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 and became a little more known for this kind of work. And I've also been very blessed to work to work alongside several organizations, not just Tessa, but also MUFON, and also Free, which was Dr. Edgar Mitchell's organization. And I am regularly referred individuals who are part of their experience or research programs, and with the hope that regression will be able to take away some of the memory blocks. Very often experiencers have partial memories of things. They have sort of a mashup of what may have happened, what they think happened, what they sort of remember. So a lot of what I do is just sort of helping them to repair and put the whole thing together. And I don't really believe in memory block. I don't believe that memory blocks last indefinitely. I don't believe that. I think that they are sometimes time dated, in the sense that people begin to remember when they are ready to remember, which is why so many people come to me in midlife. It's almost as if the things are time dated, and suddenly they're having flashes and seeing stuff and remembering stuff that they never thought about. So, and I have only on a couple of occasions have I not been able to get the client to go where we needed to go. And actually, Ryan shared one of those experiences with me many years ago. We had a experiencer. He had a valid experience, but his own life, his own current life, was full of so much trauma, so much childhood trauma, that he couldn't allow himself to remember. And the thing about memory suppression sometimes is you can't just suppress the bad memories. Memory suppression suppresses all the memories. So this poor guy had huge, big chunks of things he couldn't remember. And I could not get him to feel safe enough to allow me to explore his memories with him. Yeah.
That was my first case, by
Mhm.
the way. My first
Yeah.
case,
Very first?
my very first case with MUFON.
Wow.
And following the protocols as per training, sending someone for regression because I suspected an alien abduction. And that's when I met Lesley
Yeah.
for the very first time. Drove down there with
With your
and
crew.
with my crew, with my wife, and all
Yep.
that other stuff. And I learned about regression for the first time, completely blank, new to everything. And I think I fell asleep because you put everybody in that room out.
Somebody hit the floor. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that usually.
Sure.
Well, that poor guy, bless his heart. And
Yeah.
I felt so bad. I drove to St. Catherine's to try the procedure again at his own place.
Mhm.
And it was an even worse disaster than the first time. So, but we tried. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I find that so interesting. And I mean, to me, it must, I don't know. For me, I just hear the stories as they are, and I just get more and more questions. How do you, hearing some of the stuff that, like, is probably almost unbelievable to a lot of people, like, how does that, how do you comprehend that and deal with that yourself?
Well, again, I hear a lot of things that are, and not just from experiencers. I mean, I have to have a complete control of my own emotional self. And I have it pretty much down where I don't react to anything except with openness. So, yes, I've heard some things that have been mind blowing. Um, but I think maybe the most surprising thing, and it was to me at first, is actually how positive most of most of the experiences that people have are. Um, I'd say I'd say around 90% of the experiences that people have are positive. And as they start to recover their memories, generally speaking, um, they understand that they are actually participants in, if you wish to call it research or communication or whatever, that they are, they have been asked their permission and they have agreed to do, X, Y, and Z. And also most experiencers, it would be very unusual for an experiencer to have only one experience. I think most experiencers, there is a pattern that begins in childhood. It seems to be part of whatever uniqueness that person has. Sometimes there's a familial connection where brothers and siblings are all taken. Um, Perhaps a grandparent talked about it. So there are also generational things. And when I'm often asked the question, why are certain people being taken and others not? I think it all comes down to psychic ability,
Hmm.
the whole thing, because everything else crosses all kinds of lines. Lines of education, lines of racial, ethnic, religious, age, all lines are crossed. But the one thing that all of these individuals seem to have in common is sensitivity. Now, my feeling is that many species are primarily telepathic. Even if they look like us, they're like betazoids, they've gotten to the point where they communicate telepathically. And so if you were conducting a research amongst, the native peoples of Samoa, and maybe 5 of them could speak English, wouldn't you want to work with those 5 people that spoke English or could translate for you or something? So I think a lot of what is going on here is they want to work with people that have unique DNA and that they can communicate with easily. Because the communication that I'm hearing about seems to be primarily telepathic. Again, even when you're interacting with beings that are clearly humanoid and related to us genetically in some way. So
That's awesome. That's that's really cool. That seemed like that just all made sense to me. That's
good.
really, yeah, no, it's just really interesting because
That
it's true.
terrifies me. But
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
hear things,
I know that's okay. And people that, I always say as above, so below, because one of the great things about Tessa is that I don't believe that there is a difference between encounters with extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial beings and psychic events where we encounter people who have passed over. It's all vibration, and now this is a little far out, but it may interest you. I know I've mentioned the term interlife regression, and that is a process that was developed by Michael Newton, and it's all about what happens to us after we pass out of the physical life and go to what we would call the afterlife or heaven. What happens there, and how we decide to come back in and reincarnate, or if we do decide to do that. And what Michael Newton discovered is there were many, many points of commonality that we all have. We're all greeted, we all go meet friends, we all go for the life review, we all meet with our counsels. There are certain things that just sort of have to happen. And my clients started telling me, I would have them describe what the beings looked like in their counsel. And they'd say, well, there are two women that look Asian but very old, and there's someone that looks like Gandalf over there, and then there are a couple of beings with enlarged, elongated skulls, and they're wearing caftans, and I'm I'm going, wow. So and these beings are not dead. Understand what there are evolved beings that are able to alter their vibration where they can move about and interact in what we would call the afterlife.
That is cool.
Isn't that interesting to think about? I mean, yeah. I think it's I think if we would just stop thinking about death in such a Egyptian way where we have to be buried with all our stuff and embalmed and yabba dabba doo. We just wear out. We just wear it out. As my older son Chris said to me when he was about 4 or 5 years old, he said, Mom, I decided the body is just a costume for the soul. And I went, oh man. Wow. All right, kid, that's it. I'm going to use that from now on. So the body is a costume for the soul. And there are ultra-terrestrials. There are beings that never do physicalize, I think, never come down into the dense, what we call the third density. This is hard stuff. This is the cruel school, man. This is we have nothing to fear from extraterrestrials or even anything in the spirit world. We've got the worst, most corrupt MFers in the physical realm right along with us. And one of them was just deposed as the tyrant fascist of the United States. Woo. So there you go. And I'm from New York City. I can say that. I can't wait. I want to see some natural justice in New York City.
Oh, boy. Nice.
Shots fired.
You know what? That was perfect timing, because we're just going to shoot off to a commercial right now. And I'm very excited to get right back into this as soon as we get back.
Cool.
Hey, we'll see you in 5 minutes.
All right.
We are the ones in the dark. We are the first on the scene. We are the last to leave. We will counsel you. We will comfort you. We will save your life. We are the unsung. We are the underdogs.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESSA, the Experiencers Support Association. Ryan Stacy and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with Tessa. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. You can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. So good luck, have fun, and keep on busting.
Have you ever wondered if there were others just like you? People with extraordinary abilities and unique intuitions. People who experience unusual and paranormal events. People who have more questions than answers. You are not alone. Experiencers Anonymous. Visit tessacan.org.
And we're back.
We are back, and let's just jump right back into. So wait. So first off, were you born in the States, or are you just in New York? Are you American?
No, I have dual citizenship, but I'm from New York City, and being an actor, I spent several years pounding my New York accent out of my purview. So at first, I think I was about 12. I locked myself in my room with a whole bunch of recorded theater, and I was listening to anything that I could, and finally I came out of my room on a Monday morning sounding like Christopher Plummer. So I have sort of sometimes a mid-Atlantic thing going, but no, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm a New Yorker for sure, and my whole family. My great grandfather is Benjamin Moore. Benjamin Moore paints, long dead, but that's my family line on my dad's side.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, I did, wow. And then I did live in Los Angeles for quite a while. My late father, who began his career as a jazz bass player became a hugely successful television comedy writer. He produced Get Smart, The Jeffersons, Good Times, All in the Family. He had a couple of Emmys for Mary Tyler Moore and MASH, and you name it. He created Mork and Mindy for Robin Williams too. So he had written for Happy Days as well. So I as a teenager, we relocated to LA, where I launched myself in my own dubious career.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea. That's cool. That's exciting. That's really neat. I'm an actor as well, so it's that's kind of cool to hear.
And now we're auditioning just like this. Now we have a little app on our phones called the Actor app, and you get your audition piece and you try to find a friend to help you, and you shoot it on your phone, and that's what goes in. So now they're judging you. It was bad enough before. Now they're judging you like on an image that's like that big. Probably the casting directors are probably looking at it on their phones.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't act. I'm a real life guy.
You're a real. You just, or do you just play one on television?
I don't pretend. I'm the real deal.
The real deal. Ryan, the real deal Stacey. I love it.
I like that. Ryan, the real deal. That's a billboard if ever there was one. Got problems? Call Ryan, the real deal.
I love it. Oh, wow. And down the rabbit hole we go.
Yeah.
I got a shout out to Lisa. I just saw that she our wonderful friend Lisa Savoy just popped in, and I'm not wearing my glasses because I wanted to look a little better. I don't know if it's helping, but there she is, Lisa.
Hey,
Hi,
Lisa.
Lisa.
We all
Bless
love
your
Lisa.
heart. We love you.
While we're there, Chantel also says
Chantel.
She shares her belief in the theory of psychic connection.
Yeah, well, she's very psychic herself. That's for sure. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying. I hope she wouldn't mind me saying.
Well,
too late now. The cat's out of the bag, and we didn't know that.
That's me. No frontal lobe.
We're gonna have to talk to her about that. And,
sorry.
And while I'm whipping through the comments, I just want to shout out to nope, that's me responding.
Nice one.
To KPNL Radio, who is actually simulcasting us live right now in Portland, Oregon. So we finally made this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Hi, Portland.
What a beautiful city that is, with all their beautiful bridges. My Aunt Diane lives in Salem. And that's the home of Randy Kramer, Captain K. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which he still hasn't returned my calls or my emails.
No. Well, he told me. Now figure this. I got a message from him on his phone, which said, "Phone is broken. Use email."
He might have texted you from. You can text to phone from an email. You can do that.
Can you?
That sounds
well, he's also psionics from the from the American U.S. Army.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he could find if he wants to get all of that.
He could have just sent me a message through my nose job or something. He could have just beamed something in there, but no. So I have about 4 things that I need to talk to him about, and I have not been able to connect with him as of yet, but I will. He can't avoid me for long.
Wow.
All right. Well, we rabbit holes as we go on there.
So are we still digging? Are we going back out? Where are we at next, Jamie?
Okay, I kind of want to get back into as much as fun as that was. I want to get back into the hypnotherapy and the regression stuff a little bit, just because that really, really interests me a lot. Like somebody that's just, I don't know, like somebody like myself. I don't know if I have any experiences or none that I can think of or anything. Would it be something to just go in there and be like, okay, let's go check out the past life, see if we can go back there and like
That does happen, where people call me and they've never done hypnosis before, and they're curious about past lives, and I usually have a little, talk with them on the phone, if I rely on feeling I can't, and if it feels like it'll work, if they seem open and they don't feel blocked, or then I'll certainly see them initially. Remember, all hypnosis is deep relaxation. That's all it is. And so even in past life regressions, although it's a deeper trance than what I do for just, normal modalities, you're not unconscious. Not really. You're kind of in between. You're in, as I said, hopefully the theta state, which is a little bit deeper than the alpha state. So, but if you are disturbed or upset by what's going on in the hypnosis, you can always wake yourself up. It's kind of like snapping out of a daydream. It's not even as heavy duty as trying to wake yourself up. So you're not unconscious. Now, the way that the reason regression works is that it was discovered. Now, the ancients knew this way back, but it was recently discovered through the real-time mapping of the brain, that when the physical body gets relaxed enough, and this can take a while, like I said, it's kind of a long process that I take my time to really make sure somebody is deeply relaxed. If the body gets deeply relaxed enough, that little membrane or curtain or whatever you wish to call it that separates our conscious mind, the little part that we walk around with, from our subconscious mind, which is where all memory is stored, which is where all behaviors are formed, where all phobias come from. So my whole thing, I spend all my time trying to get into that subconscious mind. And so I can either, shut down negative neural pathways and establish new healthy ones, or allow someone to release traumatic memories that have been interfering with their sleep, and sometimes causing feelings that they're not even mentally well. Usually Jamie, and Ryan knows this, by the time someone comes to see me, very often they have already been through some processes with standard medical professionals, psychiatrists and such. They may even have had hospitalizations, shock therapy. I mean, you name it. It's possible. Many of the people who initially come to see me have been through the rigors of the absolute worst that modern medicine has to offer.
Seems
The
a little bit
worst.
backwards, right? Like,
Well, it's draconian, and there are just so many things that we don't know, and talk therapy has such limited success, and we're really on the absolute medieval type of level as far as mental health care, I think. But anyway, I forgot what you were asking me. I was explaining you something that I thought was it. Oh, I was just talking about, I guess, that that veil. It just, when the body gets relaxed enough, it just evaporates. And so once that happens, and I kind of have a feeling about when the person is ready, the first thing I do is I sort of move them around in their own life. Like I take very gradually and very painlessly. I go, well, it's 10 years ago, and I want you to remember a happy time, and it could be just a memory, it could be an event, and then let me know when it's come into focus. So that's how I sort of get everything sort of loosened up. I move the person backwards and forwards and move them around into their life, and then say we're looking for a specific incident, maybe in the person's 20s. I will then bring them back to that specific point, but I don't do it right away. So people, they're not expecting it, so that's kind of how it works. The memory is accessible when the body is relaxed enough, and the body can only get relaxed enough if there is a trust factor, I think. And that's why people who have had, abusive situations, it's a little bit harder. They're more defensive. If people have had tough times, they tend to be a little bit more defensive or resistant. But honestly, most people that come to see me, I'm able to, get them into the state of hypnosis where they need to be to either find the answer to their question or to visit a past life or, the past life regression thing is, it's not an entertainment. It has real significance and learning significance. That's how I see it. So when I'm doing a past life regression, we only ask, myself and my person, we only ask that the lives that need to be explored or need to be seen by the person at that time, that's where we go. Now, unless someone comes to me and says, I'm having a dream about a fire at the Parthenon and I'm wearing a toga, unless it's like there's a real specific thing, or sometimes if there's a big conflict or situation with a couple, they will want to know take me to a life where if we were partners previously or whatever, I might do that. But if we're going back in time to explore a possible ET event, a possible encounter with entities, a possible trip on a craft, I move them around in their lives until they are not fighting me at all. And then we go to maybe the specific event that we're interested in.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay. I have a thought here because again, you have this kind of insight, intel almost of stuff that a lot of people probably don't have any access to, and even some of the people that you're seeing probably, like you said, with the memory blocks, maybe don't even really know what's up. So one thing I was thinking of, just because again we do speak to a lot of experiencers and there is kind of a lot of similar stuff. Do you think, and I know you kind of mentioned that the time release of the blockage, but do you think, you also mentioned that there was about 90% or so that were really good memories with, I'm assuming that you meant with like ET or with being...
Yes, with ETs, I was talking about pretty specifically, yeah.
And I've heard a lot of that too. Most people, a lot of the stories aren't so negative with actually being taken or being interacted with the ETs. So do you think, and again, maybe you might have some kind of insight to this, is there any possibility in the negative association coming from maybe a Men in Black situation or like a government and is there any
a lot of that? The worst possible stuff that happens to the experiencers I work with is when the secret space program is involved and our own military stuff. That's when the worst possible events happen to these dear people at our own hands. We have some secret, intensely evolved technology that has been reverse engineered or given to us in some way. And, I think as far as the kind of abductions that we would, around the time of Betty and Barney Hill, the kind of abductions where they're, taking tissue samples and doing all these things. We don't, and extracting ova and sperm and all of this kind of stuff. A lot of this activity, in fact, most of it has now stopped, and that is because there was an agreement put in place. And you can a really good book for maybe some of your peeps to take a look at would be The Day After Roswell by Philip Corso. And he talks in detail about that because he was involved with the with the ground floor of the Bureau of Foreign Technology, which is what they developed. So they took all the tech that they had, and some of the ETs were living, and all of that is true. And eventually there was a kind of an agreement made between Harry Truman and the ETs that were pretty much classic grays. There's a lot of different kinds of grays. It's my understanding that these were gray beings. And the agreement was that they would hand over, technology that they thought we would be able to handle and could use. And in exchange for a certain amount of years, which ended about 10, 15 years ago, something like, for a certain amount of years, they would be allowed to take as many, a small percentage of human beings from the planet for the extraction of genetic material to try to figure out how they can kickstart their own reproduction systems again.
Holy
So that
shit.
And this is kind of, I would say, sort of common knowledge in ufology. So one of the reasons why we are not seeing these painful, terrible, ovum and sperm extractions is because the beings that were doing that are now they're now forbidden. It was they honored it. It was only for X amount of time. So we're not seeing so much of that.
That's true. I didn't know that, and I feel like I should have, but it makes sense because, like, timeline wise and how that all seems to have panned out.
I mean, look what happened after World War. Look at the burst of technology. Everything from light filaments to Velcro. I mean, that all came from these, and they divided. And the way Corso said they handled it is they gave something over to Skunk Works. They gave something to Hughes Aircraft. So they took all the big tech giants and big airplane manufacturers, and they were all working on like little separate things that they had no idea where they came from. They probably thought they were Russian high tech. A lot of the people that were just working on this stuff probably, oh man, this is this amazing glass. I'm hitting it with a sledgehammer and it won't break. It must be Russian. That's probably that's probably what these people thought a lot of the time. The people that were actually doing the science.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's,
I feel bad for Russia, who probably doesn't have anything.
They don't even have bread most of the time.
The old alien technology. That yeast.
And let's not subject ourselves to a Russian fashion show, for God's sake. They did.
Got sweet hats, though.
Nice hat. Oh boy, let's get out of that one. So I do want to comment. I know we only got 7 minutes left of this one here, but near the tail end, we did have Lisa on the show last week.
Yes.
And we did talk about her experiences.
Yes.
And not there's some recent ones that I'm not privy to as well. But I wanted to, I guess, comment on the fact that for everyone who didn't listen to the show last week, we did touch base on the fact that when Leslie is assigned or referred an experiencer from this point of view, Leslie doesn't know anything.
No.
And so I've already received. I've already done my report. I've already done my research. I've done my fact checking. I've done my collection of everything and come to my own analysis before I make the referral. And with Lisa, as well as other people that are watching, which I won't mention your names because you guys haven't divulged that, but I know you guys are listening. I've done the process the same way, whereas it's important that Leslie doesn't know anything. And I can validate, since we're all here, that when I get the regression session back, it validates and confirms everything that you had told or mentioned months prior, as well, and goes into not one, not two steps, but a full staircase forward into additional and extra detail about the same thing. So, like, I want to talk. I like Lesley. I love your work. I love everything you do, and I appreciate the work that we've been doing together. And the concept, like, for anyone who can investigate, who does this stuff, find yourself. If not, like, contact Lesley. Like, like, you need to have regression is a very good tool to use to validate these odd occurrences. The reason for that is that A, it's unbiased because we're into this stuff, we like this stuff. B, it's an actual profession that is used to treat trauma in general. So the methods that Lesley is using, and other regression hypnotherapists as well. I mean, these methods are used to treat, as she mentioned before, trauma. Anything that is traumatic, and it could be rape, it could be like murder, witnessing murder.
Anything.
Anything.
I actually work a lot with in PTSD with police officers and EMTs and emergency medical people. I have a whole lot of those dear people. Yeah. Those dear people have seen things and experienced things, and they're sensitive souls who, with good intentions, who have just been subjected to horrific things. Anyway, sorry, I just want to put that.
No, it's okay. And just to touch on that, there's also been a couple times where some experiencers, have unfortunately thought that they were visited by extraterrestrial, when in fact it actually was a very unfortunate event that happened with real people.
Yeah.
And like, so things like that, like, regression is important, but the thing is that I like about it is that when you bring the person back and you say, go back to the way that you feel, go back to the things that you hear, go back to the things that you see, tell me what those things are. There's no, if you say, I'm in a ship, or I'm visited around these beings and all these other things after you've gone through this process, there's that extra level of degree to show that may be actually happening. So it kind of reinforces everything that we do.
Well, I don't believe that people are lying, generally speaking, when they go through this process. I mean, and especially when you're talking about memories that are being uncovered that they haven't had conscious access to. Now, that doesn't eliminate the possibility that somebody could be a very good actor, or perhaps psychotic, or for whatever attention seeking, for whatever, that they would come in and do some kind of performance. And but I believe that the people that come to me, I don't think that has ever happened to me. I don't think that anyone has ever come into my office with any attempt to mislead me, only a desire to see the truth. And as I said earlier, many times these people have been through big processes and found no resolution, and now they think they're insane, because they can't find anything medically wrong with them, or even psychologically wrong. And as I said, this phenomena crosses all lines. I've had judges, doctors, lawyers, people who are unemployed, who've been on welfare their whole lives. I mean, it's a real mashup, but they're all sensitive people. And there you go.
When I refer the people to you, though, it's also after I've looked at every breadcrumb and I can't find an explanation for it. So therefore, it must be something in the subconscious, and I actually look to you, to get me an answer, because it doesn't make sense in all logical reasoning.
I just want to
go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, so sorry. I'll let you finish it off here, but I just wanted to say before we ran out of time, just to thank you, because I know that obviously, like you said, not only for your time with us, but just for what you do. It is a very noble and amazing thing. Like you said, after these people have gone through so much to help to like, it seems like a very helpful thing for a lot of them. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. We're all doing the same work, and really just listening sometimes is all these dear people need. Just listening and acceptance, because there's some things going on. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface of. Sometime we'll have to talk a little further about some of the things that I've heard lately, and the types of beings that are interacting with us, and what's going on as far as the secret space program. Where are we? What are we doing? So,
if you have time, why don't you join us on our Patreon? We're just gonna skip over to there and chat offline for our members. You want to keep the ball rolling?
We'll give a little sneak peek, because we'll definitely have you back on the show to get into that stuff. But let's we'll touch on it right now.
Okay.
So
awesome.
We're saying
thank
goodbye.
you so much. Thank you so much for being
goodbye.
on.
Okay, guys, and I hope to see you again real soon. And thank you for everything that you're doing. And I love the whole podcast, the intro. It all looks fantastic. All right.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Take care, guys.
Soon.
Okay.
Bye
now.
That's it for another journey into the fringe. Thanks for joining us here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Catch us next week and follow us again into the realm of mystery and unknown.
For access to the entire episode and more, head to Patreon and find us under the Experiencer Support Association. You can also follow us on Facebook on our page, the Experiencer Support Association, TUSA, and on Instagram, Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.